for those of you doing the Saga of the Endless, originally, once Greenscale was killed, everybody could get the update for the last part to get the epic item. They've changed it now to only one drop. So it's going to take you a minimum of 20 weeks. And that's assuming that you can go in and get to Greenscale and kill him every week. Some guilds that can't even do that, like us right now, you're going to be stuck, forever trying to get those epic items. So I think by allowing, the top-end guilds, the handful of guilds that were able to kill him and get all their updates, and now to go back and change it, that kind of thing is definitely what I would consider a nerf. They should leave it so that the players can get their epic updates, and they don't have to wait 4 or 5 months in order to get their epic updates. Shoot, 4 or 5 months, we'll have River of Souls open, we'll have Hammer Needle open, and maybe even another, if they continue on at their current rate, we may even see 1 or 2 more raid zones within, 6 months.
You have Raid Scales Blight, and then you have Yellow Scales Blight.
Yeah, I mean, so I think it was pretty lame of Trion to back out of, that, so to speak, obligation, to the player base and allow, more people to get their epic item updates.
What you need to do to fix that is you need to round you up about 5 bards and get the rest saboteurs, and then you'll just one-shot everything all the way through.
Well, and, the other thing that the players can do is they can go to the forums and they can start posting on it. Trion takes very seriously to, those large posts with a lot of feedback in it, and where people go wrong in their feedback, you can do it in game, you can go to the forums, but where people go wrong in their feedback is they turn it into a bitch fest or a whine fest or, a QQ answer session. It's not about that. It's about providing solid feedback. It's about providing alternative ways to do things, give ideas, be detailed. And if people use that kind of idealism going into submitting a feedback, I think that Trion will take that more seriously than just to get a random email from, or a random feedback from somebody saying, this is wrong, fix it. So go in and feedback in game and go to the forums and post on the threads and do searches for those kinds of topics and, make your voice heard, because the more people that stack up, the more chance we've got to get these kinds of fixes, these things fixed. One of the things that comes to my mind was right before the game was released, there was a big, huge thing about the PvP on the PvE servers. And there was a thread that was literally 2,000 posts long about people QQing about the people camping the Guardian stuff, and destroying vendors. And that's when they went in and made the guards stronger and put the portal guards in so that they call forth the forces and stuff like that. Instead of, giving information, it was just a bunch of people literally screaming and hollering and not offering up anything. So it kind of becomes counterproductive at some point,
Yeah, and that's one of the problems when you go to the forums. You have to sift through the miles and miles of trolling posts, and there's a lot of trolling and ignorance done on the general forums. I don't know how often you go visit them, but there's a whole lot of it going on right now, and I don't know what you can really do to combat that because it's just so much of it going on, but you kind of have to sift through all that. So I think people are kind of starting to get more acclimated to it, I guess.
Yep.
So I guess that's why you're starting to see posts really end up instead of being a nice debate or, something logical or something more informational, it's just turning into who can bitch the hardest or who can bitch the loudest.
True that.
But hopefully we'll get a change in that. Hopefully that'll finally turn around and we can start seeing a more mature form system than what we have right now.
Well, moving on to the raids now, we've gotten into a little bit of the raid rifts. We've done 3 death rifts, 2 air rifts, and a water rift and a life rift. And I have to say they're pretty interesting. There's a lot going on in the rifts, and it kind of keeps you on your toes. The way that it's designed, though, it actually allows you to bring more than 10 people, even though the design is actually for 10 people. So for new guilds starting out, you probably want to go ahead and bring a full force if you can, or as many people as you possibly can. And then, of course, you've got people from the outside that can help and that try to do things to deter you away from completing your objectives. But, the biggest thing about the raid rifts are they're like a stepping stone, getting used to the mechanics of a raid, getting used to multiple things going on, multiple tanks, having to DPS multiple targets, things like that, tank switches. It prepares you for, what's to come in the actual raid zones. And the other really nice perk about having the raid rifts is you get tier 2 or better gear out of it. So, again, it's all part of gearing for those raids. The Death Rift is actually part of the Saga of the Endless quest. And, we had a couple people that decided in Stillmore that they were going to come try to interfere and try to drag mobs away and so on and so forth, which, is open world. So people can do whatever they want. But, at the same time, you got to remember, you got to focus on what you're doing and how you're going about doing it. At the end of the day, the guild that opens or the people that open the rift are the ones that get to reap the rewards, no matter whether or not the mobs are tagged by other people or not. So I think this weekend, we pulled probably 25 pieces out of the raid. That is with the guild perk for closing rifts and adding, I think it's a 9% to rewards from closing rifts. So sometimes they were dropping 4 items, sometimes they were dropping 5 items, sometimes we only saw 2 items. So it's kind of a random thing, but being able to have that guild perk and closing those raid rifts really, really helps.
Now on those raid rifts, I got a question because I haven't got to the level and I haven't been able to do those yet. But on the raid rifts, they work just like regular rifts, in which I could see a guild going doing a rift, and I could just run up and just start smacking stuff around and actually pull out some rewards or anything.
Well, it's my understanding that the outside people are only being rewarded with Planarite at this point. I don't think that they're seeing anything else of any merit. Mostly because that stuff is dropping in the chest and that goes to the people that open the rift. But yeah, in theory, you could run right up to it. Quick story here. We had a death rift. In the second stage of the death rift, you have to deactivate this orb. And if you have the mob away from the orb, he hits for 10k. Well, we had literally the equivalent of 2 raid forces roll up on our death rift. And they decided that they were going to jump right in and just start hacking stuff away, which seems to be pretty common with people. Oh, a rift, let's go jump in the middle of it. People don't take time to look and say, well, wait a minute, that's an expert rift. Oh, wait a minute, that's a raid rift. So they go jump in all happy-go-lucky. I called our force out to just stand there, and basically within like 10 seconds, 4 of those mobs had completely annihilated and laid waste to 2 raid forces. Because they didn't know, I don't know if they thought that they were getting over on somebody or they, the thought process is you run in and tag the mob and you get the special loot. Well, there's really not a whole lot of loot, but you run in and tag the mob. Well, they ran in and tagged the mob and thought that they had, enough to handle it, and they quickly realized that things weren't what it seemed. So, word of caution to everybody out there. You may want to just hover over it on your map and see if it's a raid rift, and you probably don't want to go charging into raid rifts. Helping out is one thing, standing on the outside or whatever. Some of those mobs are hitting pretty hard, and some of those mobs have some pretty crazy AE damage. So, at the end of the day, you're left with, 30 or 40 tombstones, and it's nothing but comical at that point.
That sounds like a YouTube moment.
Yeah, it definitely was. I wish I had screenshots of that. I would have loved to have it. Yeah, but I think that, part of the balance of the give and take with the open world stuff is giving people the ability to rush into it, but part of the learning process and the teaching process is, you probably just don't want to go rushing into raid rifts. While expert rifts you could probably get away with, even though there are some AEs, raid rifts are a little bit tougher, and, just because you're a level 50 tank and you're wearing all purple doesn't mean that you're going to run into a raid rift and tank a mob. You're going to need some healing.
So in other words, if you're looking to go ninja someone's rift, don't go to the raid rifts and try to ninja stuff.
Yeah, and if you want to ninja it, to each their own. That's why it's designed the way it is. But know what you're doing before you do it. I can't stress that enough. You're running towards a rift and it's open. It's not just open season. You may want to hover over it and go, hold on a second. that's a level 52 boss with a 10k hit. Maybe I shouldn't run in there and go tank it, you know?
maybe I should go do something else.
Yeah, and then of course you've got, the Guardians, or, if you're a Guardian, Defiants, running in and purposely trying to train you with stuff and drag stuff into your raid and AE the raid and stuff. So, there is some stuff that you have to overcome, but at the end of the day, like I told my guild, you guys got to focus and you got to stay with what you're doing and adapt to the environment. That's what this is. This isn't an instance. It's open world. So be ready for it. Don't bitch about it. And, be intelligent players like we all are. And, things will go well. Which when people start typing in chat and they start bitching and they lose focus is when things start to go south. So just stay focused with what you're doing and good things will happen.
Yeah, and the philosophy seems to be really working out well for Evolution. I mean, y'all have gotten quite a few boss kills under your belts now.
Yep, we've, like I said, we did 3 death rifts, 2 air rifts completely, and the water rift, we missed stage 3, which is the hardest one on our first pull. We missed stage 3 by literally 5 seconds. And the reason for that is we had a continual flow of zone invasions driving through our raid rift. Otherwise, we would have had it. And, while I'm at it too, I got to give some props to another guild on our server, Nexus. They've helped us out with a couple DPS classes when we've had people out over the last weekend. So much appreciated to them and the guys for, stepping up and bringing some people. I know they got some updates that they were looking for also. So it kind of worked out to everybody's benefit, Yeah,
that's good. That's good. It's always good to hear other guilds helping, other guilds trying to accomplish, common tasks, things that they have in common and stuff like that. Because that's what it's all about. It's all about, getting in, meeting people, and banding together, even if they're not in your guild, but banding together to complete an objective. So
yep,
that's always good to hear. And you know what? We're gonna go ahead and let you off on a pass this time for the water rift, but we don't want to hear that happen again.
And I'll move quickly into Greenscale. We haven't done a lot in Greenscale. Last Sunday, a week ago, we went in and took 4 groups of not fully geared, but 75-80% there, and we basically got the Duke down to